Craig, the context remains shaky for the markets. Rate hikes from New Zealand, the first developed nation, spelling out more to come, I imagine. What currencies do you want to be long of right now?
Well, I think there's a fair few. I think the markets are actually looking very interesting at the moment. If we take a look at, for example, the dollar against the yen, I think that's looking very bullish. We had a lot of consolidation in the last few months, but now that's broken higher, and I think we could see some significant upside here. Looking also at the euro, I think the euro is looking very bullish against the dollar. Sterling's looking bullish against the dollar, and now that we've had this rate hike from the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, I think the Kiwi-Dollar could have a little bit more upside as well.
I mean, we've got Benoit Kerr from the ECB. We've got Bundesbank Chief Jens Weidmann talking today. They represent a pretty good cross-section of opinion within the central bank. What is the ECB's thinking right now, do you think?
Well, I think it's always difficult to really gauge the ECB's thinking, because whereas the outside world may be looking in and saying, well, we need to see some more monetary easing, we need to see some more stimulus in the ECB, some more incentivisations to lend from within banks, but then we'd go to the ECB and Mario Draghi comes out with this very hawkish stance. He's very defensive of what the ECB is doing, of the fact that inflation's so low and yet they're not acting. So sometimes it can be very difficult to work out exactly what the ECB is thinking. I think what we've got to focus on right now is that they're trying to get the message across that this lower inflation is intentional to an extent, because we're seeing so many cutbacks and so much cutbacks in so many of these periphery countries. So we can't really focus too much on the broader inflation figure at the moment. And we've really got to look at inflation expectations, and I think he's just trying to monitor these expectations and make sure that we're not getting ahead of ourselves and that we're not focusing on maybe the wrong things.
Kiwi's a little bit firmer on the back of this hike. I mean, it was widely expected, as I said, but I guess on a broader scale, what it's the start of and what it represents is bigger for these markets, right?
Well, I think that's exactly right. I think this is, like you mentioned earlier, this is the first rate hike of a major central bank. Now, I think that's really important. I think that really says a lot about how far we've come in the last couple of years. When we take a look at other central banks, I don't think they're going to be too far behind. We're looking at the Bank of England, which could come as early as later on this year. I think the Federal Reserve won't be too far behind, maybe around the middle of 2015.
Right. So you think the Bank of England's going to raise rates this year?
I think it's very possible. I mean, if we take a look at the UK, the economy's performing very well. We haven't hit those stumbling blocks which we were potentially expecting. The recovery just appears to be gathering pace. So I think a rate hike later this year really shouldn't be out the question. I think the ECB is the only central bank at the moment of the major ones that we really talk about that I think a rate hike is much further away.
And you want to be long sterling, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think sterling. Well, we've seen a long rally in sterling over the last 6 months or so. So maybe not. The rally in sterling isn't going to be quite as aggressive as it was in 2013. But I still think there's quite a bit of upside still to come.